Papa ina thamani ya aina nyingi sana.
Papa anatafutwa mwanzo katikati ya bahari ya Kenya na bahari nyingine. Kuna meli, kila aina za meli zinamvua papa. Mkorea kuna meli zingine hata tuzijui ziko baharini huko, tuna mataza nitafuta papa. Kisha avuke huko aje na kwetu. Na kwetu akija na sisi tunamvua kwa nyavu.
Kama tunavua tunapata mapato ya mahitaji yetu, na kuna vitu vingi kwa papa vinafanya kama hiyo ilichotajika maini. Tunafanya sifa ya kuhifadhia maboti ya mbao ambayo kwa sasa hii si mingi kwa hapa kwetu, na pia tunapata zile mapwezi tunauza. And then hapo pia kuna ile mdomo ya papa ambao tunatoa sisi kiutamaduni wetu, tunaweka nyumbani. Mtu anaweza kausha ukaweka nyumbani, au unaweza pata mgeni ukamuuzia. Hivyo ndio papa na thamani sana.
Coastal sharks and rays are extremely vulnerable globally. They've got some of the most endangered species of all animals. In Kenya, we have some of the lowest populations of all reef sharks globally. We measured those using baited remote underwater videos as part of a global study, and Kenya is one of the 8 countries that has 0 using that technique.
Sharks and rays are very long-lived species, and they breed very slowly. So for instance, a hammerhead reef shark, a scalloped hammerhead shark doesn't actually breed until they're 15 years old. So if you're catching sharks and rays at the same rate as you're catching fish, their populations aren't able to recover and to regenerate in the same way. And the other thing that we found is that 97% of the sharks that are caught are below the size of maturity, so hadn't yet reached the age at which they could breed, which means that you're taking out the younger sharks that they're not able to reproduce.
There are a number of drivers of the decline of sharks and rays in Kenya, and these include wide use of unselective gears such as gill nets in coastal waters, particularly in nursery areas, hence the high take of juveniles. The legislation has not really kept up with the research. There are also gaps in enforcement. And then the flip side to enforcement, of course, is compliance. And if there's poor compliance, we could say that that's largely because fishers are not involved in making decisions around legislation. And then finally, there are cultural and social aspects such as preferences for eating juvenile sharks in certain tribes on our coast.
Kenya actually is trying its best to try and conserve the shark species that we have within our waters. And we've pushed for that, we've ratified CITES, we've supported the inclusion and listing of these species under CITES. And also in addition to that, we have also ratified the CM Convention for Migratory Species. And we've also signed the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, for conservation of sharks and their habitats.
There's not really been a public conservation strategy for sharks being developed in Kenya before. Partly because there hasn't been very high awareness on the importance of sharks and rays, both ecologically, but also economically and culturally. However, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries have now produced a National Plan of Action for sharks and rays, which is a great step forward. It's a high policy document. It provides good guidance on action plans that need to be developed.
The mandate of the strategy is quite broad. There's the conservation angle. The conservation angle brings in KWS and maybe WRTI. Yeah. And then also there's the knowledge and research angle. Still brings WRTI, ChemFree. And then there's a management and enforcement angle that comes in bringing on board fisheries. So there's the Wildlife Act and there's the Fisheries Act. And then education and awareness.
We're developing the shark conservation strategy for Kenya following IUCN's Species Specialist Group on conservation planning. The key thing that their method involves is a multi-stakeholder workshop in which we discuss and debate issues in small groups and work through them and reach consensus on the best way of dealing with them.
We are involving the fishers first, the fishing communities, and especially those who are really doing the fishing, because they are the ones who understand the dynamics of their fishing, especially the fishing gears, the methods, the catch trends, and we are also involving county governments, and we are involving the national government, we are involving other non-government organizations.
Kuna umuhimu sana wavuvi kuhusishwa katika hili zoezi la leo kwa sababu ili wapate ilmu au tunasema trainings ili waweze kujua hii rasilimali inapotea na ni mbinu gani tutaenda kuifanya ili tuweze kuihifadhi kama jamii ili kwa kizazi cha leo na kizazi kinachokuja.
Sisi kama hapa wakazi wa Tamu, uvuvi ni kazi yetu. Unanifahamu? Na siku zote ukiwa na kazi, ikiwa inakuwa na mapungufu, lazima utakuwa na mushkili. Ni kwa nini hii kazi haiendi, au ni kwa nini hichi kitu kinapungua, au ni kitu gani kinafanya paka hawa papa wanapotea.
Kuna papa anaitwa Busefu. Hivi sasa hakuna. Mtoto wangu hamjui Busefu. Busefu alikuwa anavuliwa tu hapa mtoni. Babangu alikuwa akinichukua nikiona ananiambia huyu ni papa Busefu amekula tope. Papa mkubwa tena.
For the fishermen, first of all, we came to appreciate that the level of awareness, whether these sharks are actually facing extinction or not, is something that they don't appreciate so much. So when they think that when you're telling them don't catch these species, some of them are having the opinion that the government doesn't want us to catch these species because tourists want to come and see them. So I think it was very important to engage and to make them appreciate that these species can actually disappear. So we were looking at measures, how can we have closures, conservation measures being put in place, and what is the opinion in terms of even having these locally managed marine areas, the community areas for conservation of these species. There's the general misconception about conservation where people think that they'll be locked away from their resources or accessing resources. I think we need a lot of engagement, a lot of awareness for people to understand conservation is not about keeping people away from resources, but it's about introducing sustainability to the utilization of the resources.
Kuhifadhi papa ni sisi wenyewe ndio tutamhifadhi papa. Kama sisi tutashindwa kumhifadhi papa, basi hakuna mwingine atakuja kumhifadhi papa.